But sequential elimination has the same flaw as plurality with runoff. If we change one preference schedule in A's favor and run the election again, A loses. Both of these methods risk eliminating a good alternative early on the basis of partial information, without considering the full picture. A better voting scheme would look at all preference information more uniformly. And there is a method that considers all the preference information at once, the Brougher count. The Brougher method will be familiar to a lot of our viewers. It's a technique the wire services use to rank the top 20 football teams every week in the fall. But to make it easy, let's pretend that only 3 teams are being ranked: Ohio State, UCLA, and Alabama. Now say we have 100 sports writers who fall into 3 groups. With 3 teams, the Brougher method assigns a first place vote 3 points, second place gets 2 points, and third place 1 point. UCLA, for example, has 52 first place votes, each worth 3 points, 38 votes at 2 points each, and 10 1-point votes, for a total of 242. The Brougher count uses the entire preference rankings of all voters, and it applies this information all at once, instead of sequentially. The winner of the election, UCLA in this case, is therefore guaranteed broad-based support.
I'm sorry to cut in, Saul. We have word from the convention floor that Lyle Raup is just finishing his speech.
And I can tell you that what I saw was America. That this is America.
Well, I guess our information was a bit premature. Saul, the Brougher count sounds like the method of our dreams, but I'm beginning to get skeptical. Where's its Achilles heel?
Well, the Brougher count has one insurmountable flaw. It's extremely vulnerable to what's known as insincere or strategic voting. Suppose the 38 writers who most prefer Ohio State have good reason to believe that their arch rival, UCLA, will win. If all 38 of these people vote insincerely, ranking UCLA third instead of second, they can throw the victory to Ohio State. Just one preference change in a second-place ranking can manipulate the outcome of the whole election. Now, strategic voting is a fact of political life. All of the voting methods we're seeing today are vulnerable to strategic voting, each in its own way. With the increasing influence of public opinion polls, which essentially provide voters' preferences to the public in advance of the election, it becomes all the more important to understand this facet of decision-making.
Jack Webster has been talking with Lyle Raup's campaign manager, and he assures us that Raup is now concluding what can only be called an epic speech.
So when you cast your ballot to nominate your candidate from this great convention, remember America, and vote for a true American. Lyle Raup.
I believe, yes, I think Mr. Raup has ended his statement. Mr. Raup has told the convention to think and do. Yes, I believe the emphasis was on doing, and above all, to remain alive. I believe Aida Valdez is taking the stand now. Let's listen in.
Jack, it seems like the mood has really changed. Jack?
Things are getting a bit chaotic down here, Steve.
I can see that. It looks like they're chanting. What are they saying?
I don't know. I'll try to find out. Condorcet! 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 It appears they're shouting Condorcet. It's clear they feel that Valdez will win under this method.
Juntos venceremos. Juntos saldremos triunfantes.
Steve, let me give you a little background on this Condorcet method. It actually dates back to the 1780s, when the philosopher Condorcet was pondering the problem known as the agenda effect. We had a great example of this problem earlier this week. The 10-member platform committee met to determine the replacement party's highest priority issue. The 3 issues under consideration were defense, education, and health care. The committee members fell into 3 groups. Because health and education are both domestic social programs, a proposal was made to choose between them first and then to take the final vote between the favorite social program and defense. When this order was adopted, education won the first round by a margin of 7-3, and when paired with defense in the final round, defense won 7-3. What if the initial vote had been between defense and education? In the first round, education, the winner last time, is eliminated. In the second round contest between defense and health, health wins 7-3. The outcome is dependent on the order in which the alternatives are considered. In fact, with certain preference schedules, any alternative can win if it comes up at the right time. Of course, politicians have known this for a long, long time. As a general rule of thumb, the later you bring up an alternative, the better chance it has of winning. In the vernacular, it's known as stacking the agenda. To avoid the agenda effect, Condorcet proposed a new rule, the method Valdez favors. If there's one alternative that can defeat every other in pairwise contests, a fair voting system will choose it. Let me show you the difference. A family of 3 is trying to decide what kind of car to buy. The mother wants a Peugeot. The father wants a Jeep. And the daughter wants a Camaro. If they didn't know about the agenda effect, the family might vote between 2 of the cars, then put the winner up against the third. But using the Condorcet method, they would pair every alternative against every other. In this case, that means 3 contests. Here are the family's preference schedules. The matchups turn out this way. Peugeot beats Camaro 2 votes to 1, and Camaro beats Jeep 2 votes to 1. Intuition suggests that if Peugeot can beat Camaro, and if Camaro can beat Jeep, then Peugeot should beat Jeep, right? In the contest between Peugeot and Jeep, Jeep defeats Peugeot. The Condorcet method can't be manipulated to favor an alternative that comes up later. Unfortunately, it produces no winner in this election. Since one quality that a voting method must have is decisiveness, the Condorcet method is not one you can always count on.
We have word from the field that the moment we've been waiting for has arrived. The 55 voters have registered their preference lists. Every voter has ranked all 5 candidates. And we now have the complete summary of all the voter preferences. Saul, can we tell anything at this point?
Well, it's interesting to note that the voters' preferences fall into only 6 different orderings, although there are many other orderings possible. I'd also like to remind viewers that the votes are now in. The complete list of all delegates' preferences that you see here won't change. All of the election methods will be computed from this one set of preference schedules.
Okay, Saul, the results of those computations are coming in now. Under the first method, plurality, the candidate with the most first-place votes wins. Cabot Mallory. Next, plurality with a runoff. In the first round, we narrow the field to Mallory and Aberman. In the runoff, the winner is Ruth Aberman. Now, sequential runoff, where one candidate is eliminated at a time. The winner, Rodney Richardson. Next, the board account. Each candidate gets 5 points for voters' first preference, 4 for second, and so on down to 1. The winner is Lyle Ralph. And last, the Condorcet method. If a candidate can defeat every other in pairwise contests, that candidate wins. It's a clean sweep. Valdez defeats everyone and is the Condorcet winner. This is unbelievable. Saul, how can this be? This is impossible. Impossible.
That's right. Impossible. That's exactly my point.
Okay, I think we're ready to do this. Positions, everybody?
Okay.
Sorry about that delay, Saul.
It's all right.
Okay, ready? And action.
For centuries, mathematicians have tried to find the perfect voting system. But for every method someone designed, someone else found a flaw. It was only recently, in the early 1950s, that economist Kenneth Arrow tried a fresh approach, specifying at the outset axioms or rules that a fair voting system should be based on. These fairness criteria are pretty straightforward notions that we'd all agree to. For instance, Arrow said if every voter prefers A to B, then a good voting method should choose A over B. Then Arrow tried to describe a voting method consistent with his modest set of axioms.
After having formulated 3 or 4 conditions of this kind, I kept on experimenting. And lo and behold, no matter what I did, there was nothing that would satisfy these axioms. So after a few days of this, I began to get the idea that maybe there was another kind of theorem here, namely that there was no voting method which would satisfy all the conditions that I regarded as rational, as reasonable. It was that point I set out to prove that.
Arrow demonstrated that no voting method can satisfy the fairness criteria. This result stunned political scientists, economists, and philosophers, and Arrow received the 1972 Nobel Prize in Economics partly for this work.
It should be made clear that my impossibility theorem is really a theorem that the impossibilities are possible, not that they're necessary. What I claim is that given any voting procedure, there will be some possible set of preference orders individuals which will lead to a contradiction of one of those axioms. But you say, well, okay, since we can't get perfection, let's at least try to find a method which doesn't, works well most of the time, and when you do have a problem, well, you don't notice it so much, things like that. So it's not, in that sense, a completely destructive and negative feature any more than, let's say, the second law of thermodynamics means that people don't work on improving the efficiency of engines. We're told you'll never get a 100% efficient engine. That's a fact, and it's a law. It doesn't mean that you wouldn't like to go from 40% to 50%. And it's in the same vein that one way of developing research is to assume that you'll just have a system which will occasionally break down, but occasionally lead to some violation of one of my axioms. But all right, let's just try to do it in a way which doesn't happen too often.
So it's almost certain that we haven't heard the last word about voting. Group decision-making is so important that we'll always keep searching for better and better voting methods. And for the same reason, mathematicians will keep scrutinizing new methods, looking for the flaws they know will be there. Because, as we've seen, the voting method we use can determine the decision we make.
Major funding for this program was provided by the Annenberg CPB project. Additional funding was provided by the Carnegie Corporation of New York.